This is awesome. Yeah, so we're starting off with this little gem about Trump vowing to declare the Strait of Hormuz U.S. territory after we finish defeating Iran. Boy,
Right.
the cope is strong with that one.
It's very strong. And I just he very clearly is he's in some alternate reality or something. He's just really he's very seriously lost the plot. And as we'll get into, uh the US troops are suffering and several have died because of that. He's really and people that are in the military oftentimes, especially if like their career or whatever, you grow kind of cynical because you see things from behind the scenes and you
Hmm.
actually see how things work. And, like we knew essentially, back when you uh they had a warehouse uh around Bagram, you know, just with stacks of $100 bills, like piles of cash. They were stringent about it. Like you couldn't just go in there and take cash or anything, and the penalties
Yeah,
were high for getting caught doing anything like that.
sure.
So with us, they were very accountable. But basically, what it was is special operations guys would just have stacks of cash that they would bribe locals with on a
Sure.
regular
Yeah.
basis to get information and intel. But at the same time, the sort of corruption that's going on right now and the suffering that the troops are undergoing right now, in particular the Navy, is absolutely tremendous, all because I guess those that are handling Trump either, give him select information and everything's curated and so forth, uh, where he's essentially acting like a mad king. Like he's
Yeah.
just not like he has no idea about like what's actually going on. In fact, I saw, and it's really bad. Bad. I really largely I do blame Hegseth for a lot of this because he was not qualified for that position at all.
Right.
And he lies so frequently that it's mind-boggling that he can say certain things and get away with it. Like recently, Navy troops landed in San Diego and came back emaciated. I've spoke with two of these guys now, and it's absolutely atrocious what they had to how they were treated and so forth. And when I was in basic training, we had this thing where it was called fire patrol. Okay. And you're not actually patrol because you have to do like a head count. Okay. Every like hour or two. Okay. It was like
Hmm.
an accountability thing. It wasn't really a fire patrol. What it was to keep tabs on people because it would in hopes of actually stopping fellow airmen from committing suicide.
Mm.
And in the Navy, right, the same thing was happening. And there were actually six guys that actually jumped off of the aircraft carrier when they finally let them out from their small bunkers because they were actually put in quarters because they were suicidal, right?
Mm.
And what's really terrifying about that is uh, the Navy does extra, like they do as much as they possibly can to not only train men for those circumstances, but they do very rigorous psychological and psychiatric evaluations to even let them qualify to start training for a job like that.
Right.
Right. So these are sort of people that are hard to rattle in the first place. All the people that are hard to rattle or would cop out and try to commit suicide because of the conditions. Those people are weeded out early on in the process. So the fact that guys like that were actually brought to that level in the highest amount,
Misa had to be pretty bad.
it means it must. I'm telling you,
Just
it really
nightmarish.
it had to be nightmarish. I mean, I personally, I was a flyer, you know, which for me, it wasn't even about like wearing the flight suit or anything. Although, man, I got to tell you, like women, they love not just a man in uniform, but man, if you wear a flight suit, it's ridiculous the amount of attention you get from women. It's absurd. But with me, like I like the idea of flying. Like I actually enjoy jumping out of airplanes. There's like freedom in that.
Sure.
Really, I could not imagine being in like a nuclear sub. Like
Right.
Lisa's
The
husband was
claustrophobia. Wow.
right. Lisa's husband was a captain on a nuclear
Hmm.
sub. So he had done numerous deployments and stuff, long ones during the Gulf War on that ship. And I talked to him about it. And he's a tough guy, very mentally strong to begin with. But even as the captain, it got to him after a while. You know what I mean? So
Sure.
those poor guys. And here's part of the problem is because they're just hanging out right outside of Hormuz, out of range. They're not telling them, oh, just another week and we're going to go home, or another month and then we're going to get shore leave. They're not doing that.
Yeah.
They're just, our job is to float here and do XYZ because Trump feels like it.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of which, we have a really good
Yeah,
uh
I did this. Yep. Yep.
yep.
And I got a series that we'll post, but yeah, essentially, Trump is crying for more and more oil because, as you can tell, that's a plump baby, and
Yep.
he just can't get enough of it. And then Besant unfortunately runs out, and there's a reason why I chose Besant for this, because he's really the guy that is doing everything he can to essentially, Danny, believe it or not, when I was looking at the numbers of this, it's best. I do not envy Besant in the slightest, dude. He's got a really hard job. He's
Hmm.
doing everything he can to defend, like basically, the treasury
Hmm.
and the market as a whole as this is going on. And we can get into this some other time in another podcast, but I actually did the finite math where that's going to be a computational impossibility.
Hmm.
And I'm almost certain that the Iranians know this because when you think about it, and they've done their math too, like they are so comfortable now with because they have underground manufacturing facilities for their drones and missiles. Okay. So these are underground, underneath mountains,
Hmm.
like solid granite mountains. Okay. And the US tried Moabs. We've tried everything we can, other than maybe sending special forces in there to maybe try to sneak inside them and demolish them from the inside. Or maybe I shouldn't have said that because that could potentially give Trump a wild idea of attempting that
Hmm.
if he hasn't already. In fact, that may have been what they were attempting when they had all those downed C-130s. And the reason why I say that, and I know that mission didn't go too well, is because there was all this stuff in the news about a rescued colonel in the mountains of Iran or something like that. Where is that colonel?
Yeah. Yeah,
Usually,
what
if you
happened to him?
rescue somebody and it was a successful mission and everything, they want to show that person off and they get a book deal and all this others.
Yeah,
Nope,
a parade.
nothing. We haven't heard a thing. So a lot of about how this has been censored and how the media has reported on this and stuff you hear in general just person to person about being in the community overall. This is not going well and it's just going to continue to
Yep.
get
So
worse.
I wanted to add to that. I was speaking to some neighbors at the pool. One guy, big crypto guy, voted for Trump 3 times, and he was expressing disconcern because not even the Iran stuff. It was actually that crypto scam that he pulled with the shitcoin
Mhm.
during the election, the Trump coin.
Oh, did he
And
buy that? Did
no,
he buy
he no.
Binance coin?
Luckily, no. He's way smarter than that. The guy's actually a very astute businessman, but. his point was is that that makes the whole crypto community look bad, which will be a dampening effect on actually getting it into legitimate use, right? So
Right.
anytime, if the president of the country is misusing it, that doesn't send a very good example to, Citibank or whatever to accept it as, say a payment method, for example. Um,
It sends the wrong message, definitely.
Correct, correct. Yeah. And so my other neighbor chimes in, and I guess he's still. I try to avoid talking about this too terribly much because, frankly, it just enrages me. And second of all, it's just, I don't want to invite, kind of an argument with like a Trump cultist,
Hmm.
because I'm just trying to relax at the pool, man. Don't get me wrong, I won't shy away from an argument. I just don't want to invite one when I'm enjoying, poolside. Anyway, I immediately, when he said that, he was defending it. I forgot what he said. He said something like, "Oh, there's people under Trump who are doing things and he didn't know." And at that point, I just kind of looked at my other neighbor, and I couldn't help but remember this quote from 1984. If you saw me looking down, I was trying to pull it up because I don't want to butcher it. I'm really good at that, as you know. The party told you to ignore the evidence of your eyes and ears. It was their final, most essential command. And man, if that doesn't just describe that little interaction that took place, you know, and that there are still some people who are just hanging on his every word, and I can't really, ex, it's very hard for me to accept that, especially when he's gone on record saying that he doesn't care. And this isn't like the liberal media or the fake news. No, this is him in
His
press,
words.
his words saying that he doesn't care about people and their expenses, saying that he
Yep.
doesn't care that he has such a low approval rating in the US because guess what? In Israel he has 99%. Those are actual quotes out of his mouth.
Hmm.
Obviously I'm paraphrasing, but he did say those things. So
Hmm.
yeah, I just wanted to kind of bring that up is that
Well,
I was flabbergasted, that there's still that level of cope.
yeah, it's that's it is shocking, although really maybe it shouldn't be. Like I've said this for the longest time, like anytime I hear somebody making excuses for a politician, I automatically view them in my head as suffering from like spousal abuse
Yeah,
syndrome.
yeah, like a Stockholm syndrome kind of thing.
Right, where it's like, it's
He
like the
beats me
wife
because he beats
because
me
he
because he
loves
loves
me.
me. Yeah.
Right,
Hmm.
exactly. That sort of thing. I can't help but think that same dynamic is at play because it's like they just don't want to be wrong. So they're going to
Yeah.
make
Yeah,
excuses.
exactly. It's like Anthony Smith's wife. Little
Yeah.
a little
Yeah.
MMA reference there.
Inside joke there. Yeah. So,
Okay. So with all
but
that said, we could
one
start.
more thing,
Yep.
about the Hormuz situation is, so recently there was a thing with Hegseth. He said two things that are of note. First of all, he said that all the Navy guys that came back, that they're lying about the conditions that were on the aircraft carriers and so forth. So that's real great right there. Where it's like, how would he know? Number one, he wasn't
Well,
there,
yeah. What
right?
do and he's supposed to stand in solidarity with the armed
With them.
forces, not try to throw them under the bus. Like, is that fake news too? Are actual conditions from the point of view of boots on the ground? That's fake news now, I guess.
I suppose that's what he's saying, but he also um, blamed his deputy commander about not informing him about the ammo and interceptor shortages.
Mhm.
As you know, it was going to come out at some point, although anybody who can do arithmetic could figure it out. Uh, Basically, we've just reduced our stockpiles of all sorts of key ammunition, precision long range and medium range strike munitions like the Tomahawk, and interceptors. Okay. And the reason why that's so significant is because Iran knows this. And that's why they started initially to hit our radar systems and cheap drones. So we would fire off those $1 million munitions at those cheap drones to just do what's called a war of attrition,
Yep. Yep.
right? And
Yep.
they can manufacture this stuff so cheaply, so efficiently, and so fast, where
Sure.
they're literally, I'm telling you, from the start of this war until forever, this isn't going to stop. They're
Yeah,
just going to
we
keep
discussed
sending.
this.
They're just going to
We
keep
yeah,
sending
we
missiles
discussed
drone,
this
missiles drone.
in the sense that, for every target that costs them $10,000 to make, it costs us like more than 10 million to down it, right?
Right.
So it makes perfect sense that they would just be sitting back and be like, "Hey, let's do more of that."
Yep. And they threw their cheap stuff at us first to expend our expensive munitions on. And then they kept the really good, sophisticated stuff, the big boom stuff, in they kept that powder dry. So
Hmm.
as the war continues, the armament that they're going to have is just going to get increasingly bigger, badder, and more sophisticated.
Yeah.
So just the arithmetic in this war of attrition that's going on isn't going to work.
Hmm.
Period.
Yeah,
So
and that
it's already lost.
correct.
So
Yeah.
that tweet that he sent makes it's so out of touch where you just got to wonder what's actually going
Well, and
on,
that's what's dangerous when people's lives are at stake. But the
and
only
they
thing,
are,
yeah,
and they are.
the only
So
thing we could do is really kind of look at the silver lining in that, there are investments to be made on that. So why don't we transition into discussing what we're looking at here? I think that we're going to start seeing a lot more of headlines like this.
yeah, CNQ. Part of the reason why I've been so bullish on the Canadian sector in particular in Alberta are for several reasons. Uh, well, primarily, a lot of the things that come out of Hormuz, isn't just energy; it's chemical feedstocks.
Hmm.
Things like, sulfur. It's not just oil, sulfur, it's natural gas, it's helium, it's naphtha. It's all sorts of stuff that you actually get introduced to in organic chemistry, but at an industrial scale is essential for like things like mining or manufacturing to take place. And we don't have a graph of it here. Maybe sometime you can pull it up, Danny, but just a graph of the cost of sulfur
Hmm.
from before the war and after. It's about 12x.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah, and that's because most of the sulfur that's used in mining and manufacturing and things like that actually
Wonder
came
if
out of.
there is such a thing as sulfur futures. I've never heard of such a thing, but that
Yeah,
doesn't.
I don't think there is, but
Mm,
the sulfur market overall, like the cost of sulfur,
yeah, I'm not
as well as
seeing
constituents
it.
like sulfuric acid and so forth, um, have increased about 12x. And the uh, the reason why I like the Canadians is they sort of, because they have the heavy sour. It's like essentially the same stuff that comes from Hormuz, but they have up in Alberta in the Canadian sands over there.
Mhm.
Is they have both sulfur and they have of course crude, uh, but they also do, I believe, Suncor and CVE in particular. They're industrial sized refiners. CVE actually has refineries in the Midwest inside the United States. So what they actually do, they get to cash out on the crack spreads as well,
Mhm.
because there's a diesel shortage, right? And you need diesel to
Mhm.
transport stuff. Uh, and you also you know, need diesel for farm equipment, essential stuff.
Yep.
I mean, like stuff that you absolutely
Sure.
need. Diesel
And
prices have gone up. So what I'm trying to say though is both, I believe, Suncor and CVE in particular, but also CNQ, they all sell sulfur into the market, so they've made money on that in Q2. But they've also been able to really rake in the profits when it's come to the crack spreads for diesel as well, because they have the refining component.
yeah,
So that's why
that's
earnings are so good, and that's
right.
why they're such a great niche
You
to
have
go
like a
at.
perfect storm, really,
Right.
perfect setup for that. But also we have Devon, as we've
Mhm.
highlighted here. Where again, compared to estimates, Q2 earnings looks like it was a beat. So what are your thoughts on Devon?
Devon's actually a really great producer. What I really like about Devon too is the only sort of drawback that Devon has, if I remember, since they merged with Coterra, is I thought this would be bullish originally, but it seems like natural gas, for whatever reason, hasn't had like the equivocal or the same percentage basis gains as crude oil.
Yeah,
But
you'll see that seasonally though. Like
exactly,
yeah.
it's cyclical, right? It
Yeah.
is cyclical. But what's really great about Devon is they actually have really good pipeline infrastructure too. Okay, and they can sell their stuff to export. So out of like the Permian plays, if you will, I actually sold MTDR when it peaked recently, so I could
Hmm.
then cycle into refiners
Mm.
because they were at a good spot when oil. Refiners were in a good spot. They hadn't quite climbed up, uh, to like their max extent yet. There was still some baited to be made there.
Sure.
So I cycled my MTDR, but I kept my Devon definitely, and I kept my Permian resources, and I actually went in more on the Canadians because they have the refining crack spreads too.
Yes,
So,
and we also can't forget Brazil.
yep.
This is a favorite of the show, one of my personal favorites. I try to add to this a couple $100 here and there, every paycheck or every month. Um, and this is just something that I'm probably just going to continue to do. I think that there's probably a lot of ill-conceived risk or ill thought of risk in the sense that Brazil is kind of looked upon as corrupt. I think that
It's
that
it's it's misplaced. It's
it's misplaced. Thank you. I
a
was
misplaced
yeah,
attitude of risk.
correct,
The
correct.
risk
Yeah,
actually isn't there, in my opinion, but it's
correct.
viewed.
Yeah, if you ever actually ever know anybody from Brazil or have been there, it's like sure it has its problems like everybody else, but in this sense, they've actually got their shit together really well.
In
Um,
fact, what we'll get into with the miners, as far as commodities go overall, when I was looking at the space, man, I'm really bullish on Brazil.
yeah.
They're expanding both their mining projects, and what is good about this is uh, that anytime there is government involvement, especially in the miners, it's really important because the government has worked out a situation where the miners can actually help reinforce the oil producers and vice versa.
Mhm.
So you have some sort of overlapping synergy there, and it's backed by the government. So
Yep,
I'm I'm
100%. Yeah.
super bullish. I'm super bullish on all of those.
Yeah,
So
so again, PBR favorite of the show. It's still less than $20. This in my mind is a no-brainer. So yeah, I
not
just
just that,
want
Danny,
to
but
they
what
pay
you
like a 5+% dividend too.
right, you have the right idea. Honestly, with PBR, what you have to keep in mind is because when I did the calculations for in the new energy regime, and you just go based off of like cost of capital
Hmm.
and then price to earnings and then what the stock should be valued.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? When I did the like what the true valuation is. PBR actually exceeded everybody, not like in order of magnitude, but in some cases like 50% greater than, as
Sure.
far as like what their earnings show and what their free cash flow and profits are. They're massively undervalued. It's unfortunate, but it's probably just going to be the case that they're always going to be that way just because it's a Brazilian producer. Even
Yeah,
though they're
that's a
more
fair point,
profitable.
but also don't forget, Brazil is the B in BRICS, right? So I feel like as the global power hemisphere starts to shift in that direction, I think that they're definitely going to benefit. But
Mhm.
either way, even if that never takes place, it's still, in my opinion, going to be a somewhat stable stock. Like let's say it never breaks out of
I'm with you.
the
No,
twenty
I'm
dollar
with you.
range. It's
I'm
not going
just,
to
I'm
go to
just
like eight, right? And so it's
right,
a
right.
stable investment that over time you can accrue quite a bit of on account of it, being priced so reasonably and be
Exactly.
stacking those dividends, right? So
That's my
there's,
point.
yeah,
That's exactly what my point was going to be. It's that I wouldn't ever look at PBR as like something that you're going to be able to sell in the future. I look at it as like accruing at lows and
Sure.
just let that free cash flow go into dividend payouts.
Yep,
That's
exactly.
how I would look at it. Yeah,
Yep,
exactly.
stack those divvies. So we also have here Matador. I know you talked about Matador, but it looks
Mhm.
like they beat their estimates, and that's what you were probably talking about. Gave you that nice little boost that
Bump.
you could, yeah, the little bump that you could claim profits and put that into other
Exactly.
things.
And
Yeah.
that's what I was waiting for
Yep.
exactly. I knew like I didn't know the exact amounts, but I knew Q2 earnings was going to be huge for Matador. So I just waited for Q2 to come out just as I expected. Q2 came out. It beat estimates by like it walloped estimates. So by like a whole dollar, I think,
Yeah.
uh, out of all of them. So as soon as it got that nice pump and then began to tick down, I was like out, and then that
Yep.
free capital to go back in the refiners.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
oh, there's something that reminds me something I do want to get on that I noticed as a pattern that I probably should have figured out earlier, but would have been way is has proven to be true and useful recently. I
Hmm.
should have figured it out earlier though, is that you can actually arbitrage the refiners versus the producers. If you have a producer that, oh, so let's say hypothetically oil goes up because that's the feedstock for the refiners.
Hmm.
Usually that'll cause the refiners to sell off, right? But that'll cause the producers' stocks to shoot up, right?
Mm.
So oil goes up, right? The producers' stock valuations scream higher. That's when you can sell some of your producers, right?
Right. And
And
cycle in.
cycle that into the
Yeah.
refiners. And then when oil comes back down, right, the refiner's stock goes up. The producer, you see, it goes back and it seesaws.
Seesaws.
So
Exactly. It's like a
so
pendulum.
that's what I've been doing the past like 2 or 3 weeks is I've been seesawing between like the refiners and the producers.
Yeah, that's a
And
good plan.
actually, that's proven to be very like that works really well if you can keep tabs on it. It's
Yeah.
real easy trade to make too. So
Yeah, so this one's just talking. I know that we already touched on Hormuz again, but this is a big theme about the show, is that the crisis has forever changed the economics
right.
of energy security. Yeah, I
Well,
just don't know a better way to say that.
I wanted not just that, I wanted to point out this article in particular. I didn't look into the author very much, but he goes into complex system science a little bit, and he talks about how complex systems, right? They only really demonstrate where they're truly at when pressure is applied. Okay.
That's a good point.
So the only way to really find out like whether or not something is true or working is you need to stress test it,
So
right?
in math, we call that we have a term for that. It's called perturbation theory, and
Right.
so that is you kind of apply an imaginary delta of force or pressure or whatever the metric is, and see how the system reacts to it. And
Exactly.
that's kind of a good way to test like okay you have like this attractor that you think is a stable region or whatever. It's a good way to test that, right? Especially because as you and I know, but might be first for some people just tuning in, is that complex science. I mean, it's called that for a reason, complexity science.
Mhm.
Um, in that, with traditional math, you can have like a nice, we call it closed form solution. It's just a bunch of an equation or whatever that describes how something behaves. And for the most part, assuming it's with some assumptions, they're pretty well behaved. Complex, uh, when it comes to complexity theory, that is not the case at all. You may have heard of the famous butterfly effect. That is, a butterfly in Africa starts flapping its wings, which sets off, say, a flock of geese or whatever, and all of a sudden that changes the storm patterns, and then all of a sudden you have a hurricane on your hands. I might have butchered that, but the point is that with very, very small perturbations, you could see drastic results. And I'm just
Right.
kind of giving a framework for that because I think that this is definitely one of those situations. Like everybody has in their mind how things should be nice, right? They should just kind of chug along. until something like this happens, and you see just how, as we have a term for it, anti-fragile things really are, or in this case, are not.
Right. And actually the first line of this is really good if you think about it. Disruption around the Strait of Hormuz has challenged the long-standing assumption that one of the world's most important energy corridors will remain reliably accessible. Okay. Now, the reason why I say that is because geopolitically, especially with Trump in office, geopolitics has gone haywire. You're talking about tariffs, you're talking about wars, and you're talking about, uh, honestly, this is opening. First saw this door being opened. I believe it was under the Biden administration when presumably they said it was the Ukrainians that what destroyed the Nord Stream pipeline, right?
Right, I remember
Uh,
that.
right,
Sure.
exactly.
Mhm.
Right. And it wasn't the Ukrainians. It was probably like some SEALs or something like
Yeah.
that. I don't know for a fact, obviously. I don't think anybody really does.
The
But
well, the issue, my issue is that I've just come to have this barometer, and that is if it's a headline of the legacy media, it's highly dubious, right? So at the very least, we could just question that it was Ukraine. Sure, we could go off and kind of theorize. A SEAL team would make a lot of sense. Not saying it is. I'm just saying it would make a lot of sense.
right. Yeah. I mean, a team of six guys could probably pull that mission off within 48 hours, easy. Like no,
Yeah,
no problem. So,
yeah,
and the second line here, Danny, real quick, that greater geopolitical uncertainty could increase the value. Check this out. Increase the value investors place on resilient market access, potentially strengthening the relative appeal of producers in Brazil, Guyana, Canada, and the United States.
exactly what we've been looking at. Yeah.
Regions that are this is was my whole argument way back in February, right? Where preferably landlocked, but with sea access, low cost producers
And
that you
on
can
our side of the hemisphere.
in our side of the hemisphere that we can reliably protect and bring to market.
Mhm.
And those are sort of the picks or the umbrella of picks that we've been going over. And it's I'm not sure if it's started to happen. It seems like this past week that worm has started to turn, but I don't
Mhm.
want to plant the flag yet saying, okay, the market's figured this out. Usually, Danny, as you know, I'm way early on
Mhm.
like this. So I don't know how long it's going to take, but there will be a time when the market goes, oh no, we need to be in regions that are like geopolitically stable and safe.
Yeah, so
Because
I was actually to that effect. I remember, just for the listeners, we were having a text conversation, and it's like, oh man, so I got some bad prices on some of the, our selections, and holding a little bit underwater, and that's never fun. And what did you say? You said that being early sometimes feels like being late, except when it's not, or something.
no. I said
Oh,
being
sorry. No,
early.
no, I got it. I got it. Being early feels like being wrong until you're not.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. So it feels like you're wrong. And
Exactly.
that's like been a long-standing pattern in my life generally. It's like, man, am I off here? But
I just fucked
then,
up, and then
but then I just wait. I
yeah,
wait,
yeah,
and it's like, no, I was right. It just took
yeah,
longer than maybe I thought.
sure. Yep.
So
Speaking of which, another mining company. I believe we have this in the stock selections. We could take a
yeah,
look at that
believe this
technically.
is I believe this is CMCL, and they were man. I looked at earnings for this company, Danny, and whoo boy, they were getting and okay, put it this way. This company was profitable back when gold and silver. Okay, so we recently had like a dip in gold and silver. This is during the dip, right?
Hmm.
In the bear case, they were like 20% free cash flow. And I'm
Wow.
like, whoa, 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 whoa. Wait, and it's this we'll get into it, but the stock is less than like $20, easy.
Hmm.
I'm like, oh, sign me up. This
Yeah.
is
Yeah, that's a
because
no-brainer.
as we'll discuss, both gold and silver both have started to peak out of their little hibernation
Hmm.
zones. So
Oh, yeah, gold in particular is really rallying. RCAT, that's a new one.
it's not actually. I brought it up before, and I said the two sort of speculative bets that I had were Fervro Energy, which is the geothermal
Oh,
bet,
that's right. You're right. Yep.
and RCAT. And RCAT is sort of like a a cheap. It's not like a Northrop Grumman or a Raytheon where they make super sophisticated, hyper expensive drones. They make like cheap FPV drones with
Hmm.
military security and application. So I saw them back when they were like $4 a share, and I was like, oh, $4, you
Fuck
know.
it. Yeah.
But yeah, I was like, hey, and then they rocketed up, and then that's when I brought them up. But
Hmm.
then I
And you
saw
still still own that?
I still own some shares, but the with I sold recently on the most recent pop. I guess Trump. I knew there was going to be some headline or something where people were going to catch wind of it and it was going to take off. But the he announced something, I believe it was yesterday, about like not allowing Chinese drone imports or something like that into the United States. It was something related to trade. And off of that news, our cat just boom popped right up to, I believe, like $11 from it was at like 7.
Yeah.
And
Hey, you never
what
know. Trump may have some holdings in this himself.
yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. But either way, or even that I heard that the Trump children have gotten into drone manufacture in the United States. So maybe they have controlling stake. I don't know. Either way, it was sort of like a speculative bet on my part, but I was right in just that it recently popped and it's likely going to pop several times further as soon as there's a need or a demand or a headline that sets it off.
Yep.
Uh, but
Okay, so with that, we could transition into the stock selections. As usual, we'll go through the technicals as Zach is telling us a little bit about the fundamentals and why. I've grouped these according, to subject area. So we can go ahead and get started with K. Come on, K.
now this
Green
is a
shares.
yeah
Interesting behavior.
yeah this is a okay, so this is an ETF because I don't even know if you can like directly invest into Chinese corporations, but this is sort of like a Chinese green tech. They're the number one manufacturer of both solar and wind
Hmm.
at both commercial and industrial scale. So I'm super bullish on this one, even though the performance is not really all that fantastic at the moment. But the reason why I'm super bullish is because, first of all, when it comes to manufacturing output, China's got the market cornered on that. They also have the market cornered on refined products, which are necessary to create like the actuators and things that are necessary for, like things like photovoltaics and wind turbines and so forth. So they have sort of the perfect setup for green tech in China, and their exports in green tech are massive.
Hmm.
Okay. And especially with what's going on right now in the United States and the whole Hormuz situation, as we've discussed, I guarantee you, I mean, I guess I can't guarantee, but uh, the desire for solar and wind due to this energy shock from other countries around the world that China exports to. That's got it. That's if it's not already gone through the roof, it's going to continue to go further up just for energy security reasons alone. You can add the AI thing in there where solar and wind could be necessary for, surplus power generation in other countries. There's all sorts of angles I can go to explain why investing in green tech especially out of China, is really a reasonable proposition.
Mhm. So,
Um,
looking at the technicals, I'm not loving them. However, there's a silver lining, right? So, as I've drawn the Elliott wave with the Fibonacci's, my usual tool tricks of the trade that you've all grown to be grown to know and love from the show. And I'm starting to see that the good news is I do see an Elliott wave corrective phase. Which means we probably are going to open up some good buys here. It could go as low as 1692. I don't think it's going to go any lower than that. We have strong support. We should have strong support from 1692. So I'd be a buyer in the like the 20s. I think
mhm.
1986 to 22, 23. I just don't want to get banged again by aping in. So I definitely see this as an Elliott wave corrective phase with maybe some room to go, and plenty of time for Zach's fundamentals to kick in.
Well,
Uh,
what's it at today?
2461 thereabouts,
Yeah, I
2476. Sorry.
what I did with this one was I did uh one speculative share at
Hmm.
current valuations. That way I can gauge. I wanted to get in on it just in case it does
Yeah,
rocket
no, and I think
due
that
to the
that's
energy demand. Right.
That's
Yeah.
probably our, I guess we should probably kind of crystallize the philosophy on that. And I
The
brought it up.
method.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
The method.
exactly. The method is, if you see something enticing, get a share or two just to feel the waters, just in case it blasts off without you. But also, if it goes down further and you still believe in it, you could always add more. And
Right.
that helps to average down your entry price so that even if like I did buy at highs on some of these things, um it kind of helps out with that P&L, so you're seeing a green number instead of a
Right.
red, and you're getting it
Also,
low. So
with some of these too, I mean, it all depends on what like your access terminal looks like and everything.
mhm.
But like, if you have just a list of like all the stocks that you own, like, and if you at least have one share of something, right, that at least sort of keeps it on your radar so it doesn't take off with you forgetting about it. Or you know what I mean? Like
Yeah, no,
it,
there are watch lists you can have. Of course, there's all kinds of stuff you could
I
do.
know,
However,
but
how
when
to
it's
your point,
on radar,
to your
yeah.
point, I think that that's a valid point because you have skin in the game now too, right?
Right, right,
Even if it's a little skin, it's like a finger, but you still have it in the
right,
game.
right.
So KGRN.
No, that's the one we just wait. I'm sorry.
Nope. We looked at KSTR. This is
Oh, you
KGRN.
said before you actually said KGRN. I thought that's what the stock you were talking about. The one we just spoke about is this one.
Whoops.
KSTR is actually uh like memory and other hardware. KSTR, the one we just talked about, was Chinese hardware.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's why they're grouped together. KGRN is because they're in a
Really,
similar.
KSTR is down because on my terminal it shows it way up. I've my terminal shows that it's increased 11%
From when though? This
whenever I
is
whenever I bought it.
So if you bought, you're talking KSTR, right? Crane shares.
Yeah.
So
KSTR.
if we zoom in, don't forget I'm on a day chart here. So this one thing, in fairness, is incredibly volatile, right? So we
Yeah.
see these big leaps from like 22, 25 or whatever this is, all the way up to 24, 25, right? So that's a pretty volatile thing. So you
Okay,
could
yeah.
also tell with these. If you see these patterns, they're like little packets. Those are what's happening on a day scale, right? So typically you have this continuous thing. Obviously, there's going to be the break at open and close, but you see this just flies, right? So there are some stocks that it's called the beta value. That's how you the metric for that. We could actually probably see that in here somewhere. I'm not. Oh,
Now, KSTR, what's okay? So you're seeing the blue wave there go up. What's that an indication of, Danny?
the
At the bottom?
blue.
At the bottom?
Oh, yeah, this is an indication of buying. right? So basically, we are
Oh,
seeing accumulated long-term buying. This jump here is very good for our cause, right? So if you actually, when in doubt, zoom out just to get a feel for the scale of this, um, and wait for it to load. Okay, so if we see, okay, so it's a little bit of, when you zoom out longer term, it's pretty bearish. However, this is why you have to understand the time frames, right? Because it, it uses some math to average stuff, and yes, that was a very technical description. So over longer periods of time, it's going to take longer to impact that result. It's pretty responsive, but still, it's kind of a global measurement. When you zoom in, you see that we see a lot of activity here in the beginning of August, right? A big jump here, which
mhm.
is I think is good for the cause.
Okay, yeah. Okay, good. Good, yeah. But this is like all the stuff necessary for AI that China now makes and even exports. This is the ETF you would buy for
Yeah.
that trade.
And for the
Or
technical folks, this is a pretty solid uptick here. We call that a divergence. When you see this sell off, but the indicator either isn't really doing anything or it's going the other way, that's called a divergence. And depending on how good your indicator is, that could mean a breakout, right?
mm,
Or at least for the bleeding to abate.
yeah.
So now, KGRN,
Yeah, this is
that,
the one that disappointed recently instead of yeah. But this is the uh, green tech
mm-hmm.
ETF in China. But
Yep. Technicals don't look thrilling, but if we come on, what did I do? So if we do get a little feel for the price range, what's going on here? Come on, hello. Okay, there we go. All
yeah,
right,
Dan,
so
I did notice like, I figured this I should have figured that this would have happened in trading and investing too. But yeah, being early to the party, figuring things out before even the hedge funds or whatever, you start to see word of them going into CBE and stuff. It's
mhm.
like,
Yeah.
should have figured this out earlier.
Whoops.
They didn't.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, so we have we're retraced quite a bit. Good news is I think 1772 is a low. Upward, we have to break 3193, which is going to be difficult. There's going to be a lot of resistance, but targets for this would be the good news here is that we've already established this price range, so we have very solid targets. 3632 looks like a good one, as well as 4071. So
Mhm.
both of those look like good targets. All right, moving on to PBF, not PDF. Those
Yeah.
PDF files. Wow, this is a bit of a spike here.
Hmm.
I think that we can actually zoom in on 2025. It looks, again, if I defer to my trusty Elliott wave, my computer will cooperate. Come on, buddy. What's
What are
going
you
on?
downloading porn in the background or something?
I didn't think so, but maybe. Here. Oh,
Yeah.
got
Okay, so this one right here, Danny, this is a refiner. Um,
got it.
Not
Uh,
one that I'm as bullish on out of the pick, but it's a good solid one. Um, and as we discussed, with the refining, the reason why I have this one up is because as you can see, there's been a recent dip in the price. Okay,
mhm.
where we tested highs, and I think it'll probably fall further if oil stays elevated. Okay, but that then again, that's as I talked about the previous arbitrage. This would just be an opportunity to get back in on the refining sector
Yeah.
at
I
lower
see what you're saying.
valuation.
Yeah, that's
Right.
a great point. And actually, if we draw the Elliott wave here, we see a completion of one with a new one starting, right? And we'll see how this pans out. But that plays into your point, which aligns perfectly with the theory that we're going to start to see those dips and those valleys as we see that arbitrage back and forth. So we already have a very actually, it's perfect. I swear I did not do this beforehand, but you see how perfectly these things align. We're already at the second target at 75.81. From here, I wouldn't be a buyer, to be honest. I would wait for what you're saying to
Wait
kick
for it.
in.
Yeah. Right.
Exactly. And be a buyer maybe 62.52 or maybe as low as 52.07. Could set up some limit orders. But for sure, this will not this will not last. It's gonna ebb and
I,
flow, right?
I would like 5207. That would be a nice
Yeah,
buy
for
for a
sure.
refiner.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. So par. Let's check this out.
Now, this one I really, really like.
Ooh.
I really like this one. And I'll tell you why. PARR is a refiner in Hawaii. In fact, the only refiner in Hawaii. So,
Wow.
yeah, they have a veritable monopoly in that whole region. So what the United States can actually do is drop off cheap crude that we have, and this plays into the shipping element as well, because I believe it's DHT
Hmm.
actually, which is another is a shipping company we've gone over, uh, actually takes this route, but can actually go from either Canada and or the United
There
States,
we go.
drop off crude, and then they can refine the products and then ship the diesel off to Japan and South Korea,
Interesting.
as well as sell into the market that they have there in Hawaii, of course. So with this one, since this is the only refiner in Hawaii, right, there is a very strong floor. You understand?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Their earnings, Danny, for Q2 were retarded.
Yeah.
They were like retarded strong. So you can understand too how Hawaii is sort of key as a strategic locale to have a refiner.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Because that's like halfway to the Pacific to all that.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. You have global
Like
access to that whole side of the world.
so like as far as like in a geographic sense, you probably couldn't have a better location for a US refining complex.
Yeah. And when we do the Elliott wave, we see that this is probably a high. Again, similar commentary in that we're that when that pendulum swings back rather, 68.10, 55.92, and 47.40. I think that this is a little bit a little bit wishful thinking, but those three levels are where I'm a buyer on this. Definitely not here at highs. Almost certainly going to retrace from here.
Yeah, and now here's a hypothetical. Let's think about this. Say oil goes high though and stays high, which is feasible, right? That is a plausible scenario since this war doesn't seem like it's going to end, and I don't see Iran or Trump giving.
Mhm.
So with oil being high, here's maybe we could see that 47 if you think about it, which would definitely be worth a limit order.
I see your point. Yes, I believe that in such a situation, like this is probably a good time to do an aside on oil. Sorry about the mess here. It's just zoomed out, but um, we did see a nice little rally here to the 80s, nowhere near where my personal calculations have it. That'd be about like 100, 110, and that's being very conservative. Um, so we're here in the 80s. What I can say is that since we haven't retraced all the way, it's like the markets aren't that dumb, right? So we're not in the 50s, 60s, right? We're kind of hanging out in the 80s, and you see this kind of ranging. We call this price exploration. It's kind of feeling out a territory here. Additionally, we may have our first leg of another Elliott wave, as you see per my analysis here. I think that your kind of path of that is entirely reasonable. That, in
Right.
other words, that we could see an attempt to at least get to the 90s, especially when more news comes in, more troops come back. Unfortunately, and I don't want this, obviously, but they come back demoralized and talking about the nonsense that they're experiencing over there. It's just going to be hard to jawbone those markets down, especially when this is, as we keep saying, a physical thing, right? This isn't like a financial company that I could kind of voodoo things and work around. This is an actual physical substance, and you either have it or you don't.
Hmm. Yeah.
All
So,
right.
but so what you're saying here though is that we've already kind of taken a dip, and we could be off to the races on the second leg with the Elliott wave and with oil.
Gun to my head, that's exactly what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Obviously, this market has been unusually slow to price in the most obvious things, so I'm
Hmm.
certainly not. I'm going to qualify with that, but our logic, there's only so long you could sit on that powder keg.
Hmm.
CVI, that's CVR
Well, I believe we're
Energy.
at a SPR come September, so there's that too.
Right, and so it's sooner or later, right? There's only so long you can run from that boogeyman. Um, Very wide range here for CVR. If I just do,
CBI.
excuse me, CVI, I'm thinking CVR Energy. Thank you. But yeah, we're kind of pushing at highs of this established range, which goes back to 2021. So it's kind of been all over the place here. I'm thinking just by looking at this, we're a little bit, you could give me your thoughts fundamentally, but just technically a little bit overvalued in the sense that we're knocking on this upper bound of that price range, right? So I'd be looking for like 29.23, sorry, 29.93, 25.83, or even 21.73. I think 16.65 is reasonable, but maybe you can add some commentary on that as
Well,
to what we're thinking.
it's interesting you just said that because I put in a limit order today for uh 21.78, somewhere around there.
Thereabouts. Hmm.
Yeah. Because that's essentially what my rationale was, is to catch this when oil prices explode,
Hmm.
catch it low, and the cost of capital here is not very high. So, you know, even here, like honestly, I was today I was thinking about this when I was sending you the email, and I was like, eh, maybe I'll just buy a share, just in case whatever happens and
Yeah.
it it goes off. So, the reason why I say that too is because like I don't because I sold VLO, I've been weak on the refining side of things. So, just at least having like one refiner in your portfolio is a good idea. You know
Yeah.
what I
Yeah.
mean? It doesn't
And like
necessarily have to be a VLO.
like we've
So,
been kind of stressing in this show, we like to pick, or at least it's worked out that way. Stocks for which they're not. Granted, we have a few. They're typically under $100 though, right? So these are
right.
things where you could again save your lunch money and buy a share or two every once in a while. This is not a dividend king by any means, but it's paying something, 0.28%. So just want to leave that there.
Well,
Uh,
also the part of the reason why I like uh stocks in that sort of value range under $100 is, first of all, like I can justify that,
yeah.
you know what I mean? And further, you can buy more shares of it. So it's like it's easier to sort of feel out the market in the
Well,
sense of like you
well,
can
not
gauge your buying and selling in a range.
Yeah,
It's like
and it's just psychologically it feels good to see more of a thing in there. Whereas
right, instead of
my
like one $300 stock or like
correct, like speaking of
yeah,
which VLO, this is one I sat out on just because I couldn't justify it at the prices it was at. Um, Wish I would have listened to that advice on some other things, but that's okay. Um, I was hoping it would go down into like the low 200s on like a nice Elliott wave retracement. It just has not. At this point, as you saw, this is another favorite of the show. So we have covered this before, as you see my long-standing analysis, and we're already past the second price target. So typically, when I do these, I'll the Fibonacci's you anchor them. That's kind of where you put the high and the low, and the program does the math on where those Fibonacci levels lie. So the projections are the Fibonacci extensions. Those constitute price targets, and you see we've just absolutely smashed those. If I zoom in a little bit, the next one's at $407.38, which from
We're gonna
how
we're gonna
often you
that
discuss that seems as discuss this stock, and we keep coming back to it, seems like a very distinct possibility.
Yeah, when I did the calculations for like the overall energy regime that we're going to be under, the fair value of VLO under that regime hypothetical was actually in excess of like $580 a share.
Yeah,
So
and
that
that's
gives you an idea of sort of what the upside does look like reasonably within this
and that does
range.
look realistic with respect to number one, the growth that we've seen and the technical projections I just did.
Right, right.
Uh,
And honestly, like if when I first brought this up way back in, in February or whatever, when it was back at, like 200 something, like would you have thought it would be at current valuations?
I
Like
did not. In fact, I was hoping selfishly that it would not be. There were a lot of stocks that gave us the opportunity to kind of add to them, CVE being one of them. Thankfully, I loaded up on a bunch of shares of that. However, unfortunately, this one just left me. This is Dino, and as you see, it's a little volatile for my taste. However, we are gradually tapering up. So we're near highs right now, if not at highs. Let me see. Oh, come on.
now this is like out of the refiners, my two favorite are PARR and Dino, which is I believe HF Sinclair. Uh that when I looked at Q like their Q2 earnings, man, these guys are just printing money. They
Well,
are just over fist in cash. Like it's absurd how much cash they have. And when you think about it, like these are, really well developed refiners. And again, to bring up the refining thing and the conflict in Russia again, right? Recently too, the Houthi in the Hoot,
Hootie and the Blowfish.
right? The Houthi, they hit Saudi Aramco refining. Uh,
Yes, yes, I did see that
so
headline.
yeah, and I'm surprised that the market sort of shrugged that off.
That's a pretty big
Just
deal.
that's a big deal. And actually, the Houthi hit a bunch of Saudi troops today and killed like over 200 of them.
Jesus.
So yeah, I mean, they're man, you don't want to screw with those people. I'm watching my language, but they are some tough bastards. Those guys.
Yeah.
Uh, and they are strategically located. And not just that, but Ukraine has continued to hit Russian refining as well. In fact, they've picked up the tempo on that too.
Right.
So when
So
it
it,
comes to
yep.
refining, again, man, if you don't have one refinery in your portfolio, my favorites out of all of the picks though with refiners are Dino and HF Sinclair, which is um, I'm sorry, Dino is HF Sinclair, PARR.
Yeah.
Those are my
So
favorites. Yeah.
these technically this is at all-time highs at $93 and let's see. Actually says 94.08. Um 93.55 thereabouts. So I would be waiting for a retracement as per the Elliott wave and the Fibonacci's. 69.09 looks like a really good price. Will we get that? I don't know, but there are some other spots that I would be a buyer at, including 74.86 and 83.08.
Did that
Um,
start to come down today though?
it did not.
Really? And oil went up. Interesting.
Yeah.
Oil went up and it didn't
Oh,
retrace.
and not
I don't
not
know
by
if it's
like
going to retrace any.
not
Yeah.
like not like
Maybe
by an
not.
appreciable amount, but again, this is our kind of theme here is that if there's something we're really confident in and you have enough to say buy a share, just kind of feel it out.
Right.
um, Also, I will say I'm not a CPA, I'm not an accountant, but If you do take a loss, let's say you mess something up and you just say, all right, I'm out, you can actually write that off as a loss on your taxes and then just enter it again. So it's not the end of the world if you get a bad price. CVE, favorite of the show, already
Dude,
exceeded.
again, their diesel refining, and here's what they do. They're super smart, man. They put their refining inside the United States so they can pump their WCS directly to their in-house refining that's inside the United States so they can then refine into products, key of which being diesel, and then sell into the more expensive American market where the Canadian government can't get after them either. So you see how that
Clever.
works?
Yep.
Very clever, because it turns out that when I looked into this, Danny, part of the drawbacks with the Canadians, hypothetically, is if there is like a very bad oil shortage and oil goes past I think it's Brent goes past like $130 a barrel or something like that. Like there's some legal thing where the Canadian producers have to pay royalties to the Canadian people or some, but because
Yeah.
CVE has the refining component inside the United States, you see what I'm saying? They're largely sheltered from that. And that's
Yeah,
part of the
I'm
reason why I'm so bullish on CVE
well,
too.
as you know, I used to live in Canada, and for those of you who are just tuning in, I spent 3 years in Montreal, and I will never say anything bad about Canadian people. However, if you hear me talking shit about Canada, it's not about the Canadian people, which are awesome. It's the Canadian government, which is just completely. I just don't know how it's still standing, to be honest.
They got too many crackhead alcoholics in office.
It's true. Yeah, it's all a big club.
You remember that one dude that like they had video of him and he admitted to like smoking crack and
You're not
like
talking
being
about Justin Trudeau, are you?
no,
No,
it
but
was
he's
some
done a bunch of other shit too.
fat dude. Yeah, it was some fat dude.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're talking about the mayor of Toronto. It's like the
Yes.
big
Yeah.
guy. It'll
Hmm.
come to me his name. I'll put it in here. But yeah, there's a huge scandal surrounding him, and I believe even his brother too.
Yeah, but on the job, man, they were like banging hookers and getting drunk and smoking crack, and they had to like talk about it repeatedly to the meet. It was
So,
very entertaining.
sounds
Yeah.
like a fun guy to party with.
Yeah, but not to run your government.
Eh, I,
You know,
I don't know, man. It doesn't really seem like much of a horse race these days either way. But
that's true. But yeah, CNQ. Okay, so I'm gonna be honest. What's I don't know. CNQ is a good company. I own a bunch of shares of CNQ. They've performed very, very well. But as you can compare their stock valuations, I think the the whole hey. I know. So
Angus is
the
agreeing. He's like,
he
"Daddy,
is
buy more shares."
super excited. He saw some Labradors out there. Yeah, I know. Okay, I get it. Uh, what we're starting to see is like switch back to CVE real quick. Like compare the stock valuations of both these. Yeah. See how we're noticing CVE start to break out as far
Right,
as like the momentum compared to CNQ. That's right. The market is starting to realize that I was right all the way back in February
right, and
because
that CVE is
CNQ was
undervalued
actually right.
with respect,
CVE
relatively.
with respect, right, right. CNQ compared to CVE, its stock had been performing way better than CVE's, which was frustrating from
Sure.
my end. But now the market's starting to piece together, oh, Zach was right. And
Yeah.
we're starting to see that reflected in the stock, which is again a good
So
sign though, because
this
that
is
goes to show that we're on the right path. You know
yeah,
what I
this
mean?
this is one of those things where you have to look at intermarket correlations, and you have some stock sectors that are tightly coupled. So it's like, okay, if you and this is just a personal choice. If you have the option to buy a really expensive stock and a really cheap stock that are both behaving in the same manner, personally, I like to go for the really cheap stock because I could piecemeal it here and there, right? Also, as Zach mentioned, the markets may start to realize, depending on the dynamics of the stock, this is not universal by any means, but if you do your homework, the markets may realize that the lesser value stock is way undervalued, as we're seeing with CVE and CNQ,
Right.
the relative
Right. Now,
growth.
what CNQ has had over CVE is just basically the volume that they produce. They just produce more of the crude than CVE does. However, they don't have the refining component,
Mhm.
so they're not able to indulge in those crack spread profits.
Yep.
There you go, right
Yep.
there.
Cool. Another favorite of the show, this has appeared multiple times, is Suncor. Again, this is another one that's at highs, or thereabouts. Looks like it's probably going to hit resistance at highs at 95.87. We're hanging out 91.56, 87.78 is a reasonable retracement. I'd say it's probably not going to go below 81.42 anytime soon. We should see strong resistance, strong support there and at 76.96.
So what I do like about Suncor compared to CNQ is they do have that refining component,
Yeah.
and they actually have more volume than CNQ as well.
hmm
So I believe their dividends probably higher also,
Oh,
but
we can check that if this is 2.60, which isn't
maybe not.
exactly
Not
which isn't
yeah, no.
exactly a juggernaut by any means. C and Q, I
CNQ has a higher
three
dividend. Yeah,
3.65%, and CVE, if I remember, that was
not
pro
much on CVE, but they do variable dividend pay.
1.92. Yeah, so
Right.
I think when we looked at it last, it was a little bit higher, but
Right, but their free cash flow, they do the variable dividend payouts. So what's going to happen is due to they're going to be rolling in cash, right?
mhm.
So they're just going to periodically just, oh, hey, we're going to take up shares and cancel them or just pay out random dividends to shareholders. So
Yeah,
I'm not
nothing,
worried about that. Yeah, I'm
certainly
not.
nothing wrong with that. Okay, Bunge Limited. This one's a little wonky technically, but I'm going to focus in on 2025 because this seems like a behavioral pattern that's breaking away from the stuff that we saw before. Remember, in terms of complexity theory, you have these kind of zones of behavior, right? And this is true not just for stocks, but for other things as well. So if you kind of compartmentalize what's going on here, it's kind of a Elliott wave with what we call a sideways corrective pattern. We do see a retracement here, and it does look like we're in the midst of yet another Elliott wave, for which we appear to be in a corrective cycle. Which, if you're bullish on this, this would be nearing at or nearing the time to buy. We'll get some exact price points on that. Let me just finish drawing that real quick. It does look like there might be some room for retracement still. But I'd say $100 is right about where you're looking at. That would be a great price for this stock. We're at 113, so I'm not sure. Again, depending on how bullish you are, Zach, I'll hand it off to you at this point. But if you think we might go that low, 108.35 is certainly a reasonable target that we could expect just maybe from volatility. But yeah, that's my
It would
technical
be
two cents.
it would be nice if it went that low. I don't think we're going to see that though, because I mean we may see just above it or whatever, but uh the reason is honestly with this company here, if you were to take like everything that the current geopolitical uh setup has,
hmm
it's all sort of encompassed in this one company. Uh so they're an agricultural company, okay? But they do everything from like uh, fertilizers to agricultural products to they have a really, really large and very profitable biodiesel component,
Mm-hmm.
as well as corn ethanol conversion. So when you're talking about fuel shortages, right, they're
Mm-hmm.
going to, and just like literally diesel prices are as high as I believe historically they've ever been, okay, as well as the crack spreads. BG really, as far as this that whole material sector goes, they have all of it, and they
Yep.
have large sections of it. And their Q2 was interstellar. It was very,
Wow.
very. So I don't. I hope we hit those price targets,
Mhm.
but I don't really see it. So.
Yep. So Van Eck Agribusiness, this is an ETF.
Mhm.
It does look like we're doing some kind of sideways correction here at decent prices right now. If you consider this whole thing that we're looking at as the general range, it does look like we pierced a little bit below that. Not sure we're going to get to those levels again. Um, I think 79.34 is very reasonable just because it is the bottom of the range, relatively speaking, aside from this little dip here, which I think that we've recovered from. So 79.34, obviously 77.66 if it gets lower than that. Um, I think it's highly unlikely, but 75.59 as well. Or
The
current
stock,
prices.
the stock ticker for that is PGA. Is that right?
No, this is MOO.
Oh yeah, yeah. Okay, okay, yeah. MOO, yeah. This is honestly, this is like just a really big agriculture basket.
Yep,
Like everything you
ETF, yep.
think about for like commodities slash agriculture, it's there. Everything from cattle to sugar cane to corn. The reason why I didn't have like the corn ETF or the wheat ETF, even though I'm bullish on both those, is because the prices are actually pretty good at the moment. However, the they have like the K1 tax deal. So it complicates your taxes when you file.
Mm,
So it's just sort of like for like a $20 stock to buy some corn, I don't need to have to fill out a whole nother tax
yeah,
form.
yeah, that's no fun.
Yeah,
And that's another reason why I'm gonna have to verify because I know we bought, or at least I bought, CVE. They're Canadian companies, CVE, and I think CNQ or one of the other Canadian companies by way of the NYSE. So there is a American representation there. If you do purchase foreign stocks too, you're gonna have to factor that into your taxes as well. So just keep
unless
that in
it's
mind.
unless it's an ETF.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Unless it's an ETF but specifically an ETF that's American run, like not a
Right,
Chinese. You know what I
right,
mean?
right.
Like, yeah, but exactly. So
But like
they
K
track
Star
it.
and K right, K
Correct.
Star and
Correct.
KGRN, even though those are Chinese tech and whatever, those are American ETFs.
That's
And
that's my point. Yeah.
yeah, right,
They're just tracking foreign things.
right.
Similar kind of I guess it's a similar basket here with this agriculture fund. This one's a little bit more reasonably priced here, below $30. Again, similar behavior, hanging out at 29.50. 20, buying opportunities are 27.08, 26.67, and 26.15. That's where I would be a buyer, even current levels. If you want to buy a share or two here and there just to get in on it. The targets are really well defined. We have 28.09, 28.45, and 28.85 if you're looking to flip this.
That's PGA, right? That one?
DBA.
That one's DBA.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm not seeing a PGA.
Maybe I just
Yeah.
mixed okay. Yeah, that one honestly I like that one. I picked up a share of it.
Yep.
Just it is just an agricultural commodities basket.
Sure.
So I wanted commodities exposure, so I got it.
Oops. All right. So this one, SRBIF. Uh, Okay, so this I'm not sure what is going on with this chart here. This could be a data issue. Um, yeah, I'm not going to trust this. This doesn't look right.
Is that Survey?
Survey, yeah.
Yeah, this is gold mining. Uh, I'm this one, I'm probably more bullish on this, uh, probably more bullish on this one than maybe any other one, I think, long term. When you look at their, okay, so it's a Brazilian, it's an American owned, like Brazilian company that does like gold mining and exploration in Brazil. Okay. Wait, no, I'm sorry. It is a Brazilian company. Yeah. But somehow Carl Icahn owns like controlling shares in the company though.
Mhm.
Okay. And they have like the lowest cost of production. Okay. Uh, I mean, their free cash flow and profits were extraordinarily high, over 20%. Okay. In the last quarter, even at current valuations for gold and silver. And they have, okay, so it's like you need diesel to mine usually. However, this is one of the companies that's actually backed by the Brazilian government that has sort of like deals for like
Mhm.
wholesale diesel that they can get from Brazilian producers like PBR.
Interesting.
On top of that, they have much of they use a lot of solar and wind to help like draw electricity for their mining operations to not use diesel. On top of that, most of their sort of system is electrified through the Brazilian grid, uh, so they don't even need to purchase diesel. When I looked at their diesel cost, they were like less than like 3% or something. It was like
Insane.
it was nothing. Yeah, it was. So it's like they're sheltered largely from the fuel prices, and they're an extremely, extremely productive producer of gold and silver.
First
So.
Majestic Silver core, speaking of silver, this one is looking really, really nice. And the reason why I say that is, again, it's not just about the asset, but it's about the price that you get in, right?
Mhm.
So you, if we were to rewind the clock and look, back here at highs, I would probably be telling you the exact same thing that I've said for the other ones. Like, hold off, you might see a nice retracement. Sure enough, we have this beautiful retracement here to 1514. Again, this is priced low enough that it's like, but we do see this little breakout here. This could be the next wave, the next leg rather, of a Elliott impulse wave. So that would be another one of these. And the good news is, again, we're priced here. In such a manner that this price range here is certainly reasonable for anybody to get in. I definitely don't think it's going to break down from 1514. That would be an absolute floor in my opinion for now, just technically. 1826 would is reasonable. Immediate targets 2138, as you can see on the screen, 2583, 2848, and highs here at 3149. I think that would be the ultimate target. As for dividend, it does say that it pays only 0.19. So obviously not a dividend king, but it's better than nothing.
But recently there was an announcement, I believe, where they're adding to their dividend positions because their cash flow and profits are more than high enough to do so.
Hmm.
Now, part of the reason why I really like this one is okay, so I believe this is a Mexican company or an American company that operates in Mexico. And when you look at Mexico's profile, especially with silver, most of the silver in the world, I believe, is actually mined in Mexico, interestingly enough. Um, and this is an extremely efficient producer, uh, where the only issue I could see them potentially having is they don't have the addition of the backing of the government like the previous miner did, and they could potentially run into some issues with diesel.
Hmm.
Other than that, uh, it's at a really good price, and because we're going to see a bull wave in gold and silver, Yeah, I picked up a share of this easy. That was a very easy decision to make.
Yeah,
So
same thing here again with these miners. We're seeing a very similar, we're talking about markets that are, or stocks that are correlated. You typically see that in terms of sectors. So, same kind of deal here. Um, with what's going on here. It's kind of hard to draw the Elliott wave with how
vertical, yeah.
yeah, exactly. I'm just kind of winging it here because really what I'm after is the retracement, this corrective wave, because that's really where we're going to set our entries, or at least, kind of discuss that. So, definitely don't think we're going to break through 1589. 2016 would be a good price to buy. Even current levels, 2632, we have some several levels above that as price targets. If you don't want to hold this, it's paying 2.46% dividend, which isn't shabby. Immediate targets 2707, 3199, 3491, and highs at 3825, which, if we're talking about, long-term outlook on things like commodities, I think that that's perfectly reasonable.
Yeah, I'm bullish on this one as well. I really like it. I like its overall profile. Uh, I either bought this or put in a limit order for it. It's an extremely efficient producer, and they're just recently added to dividends. And I can honestly, Danny knows this. When it comes to gold and silver, I prefer the physical. Okay. But when I was researching this, I think what we're likely to see, I would give this like a 70% chance, is we're going to see the miners, especially the ones that we've discussed here, uh, to way outperform,
Mhm.
okay, the physical commodity itself. There are several reasons for that. Primarily, I believe with this one, CMCL, although CMCL is not the only company that does this,
Mhm.
what they do is during lows, they actually, instead of selling off into the market at lower prices, they just sort of shelve the raw commodity itself.
Yeah,
So
that's perfectly reasonable.
they're just sitting on tons and tons and tons of silver,
Yeah.
right? So when the prices do shoot through the roof, like I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if silver alone hit, $200 an ounce, especially after the most recent bull run. They can
Mhm.
sell off into that market, man, and they're just rolling in cash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So another similar behavior here with EQX, that's Equinox Gold. Very good prices here. I mean, we're looking in the $10 range, right? So retraced. I'm not liking the retracement a lot because it kind of crashed through some of our. If we draw the Elliott wave, I'll do that. I don't.
Right.
Yeah, it's crashing
I
through. You see what I mean? Like we're
crashing
here.
through the levels. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it crashed. You don't want to exceed two. Whatever this dips to, you don't want to exceed that. I don't like that technically. It's not the end of the world. It's not, it is what it is. But I think similar behavior in the sense that we're seeing this retracement and we have a recent breakout, what with the rally in commodities. Speaking of which, we could take a look at gold. And I believe that this is kind of, let's actually get this. Trying to focus on what's been going on recently. Um, so that little blip that you saw, the what might constitute the first leg of a new Elliott wave, corresponds to this rally that we're seeing here. So this is the past month or so. Sorry, this is August, so we're bleeding into July a little bit, but yeah, up and to the right. So it's going to be really good for these commodities producers and mining companies, including this is silver shares. Not liking this technically very much at all. However, when in doubt, zoom out. Again, we're seeing the same pattern here. Don't forget that this is kind of a what we call a global behavior. I was on the 30-minute charts. So,
Yeah, this is a silver ETF, just like overall. The reason why I like this one though is because it has like I believe this was the lowest cost silver ETF out there. So basically it just tracks with spot. Okay. And it's like I think it's got like a 0.01 drag.
Mhm.
So it's like literally the least expensive exposure to silver in the market. I prefer physical myself. I've been
I
buying I've been buying physical since 2009, 2010, I think.
yeah.
So,
I'm a paper guy. I like these companies. I like that they pay dividends. A lot of them do, and I just don't like storing it. So I prefer entering commodities through ETFs or through mining companies or producing companies. That's my thing. But again, it's there's pluses and minuses to both sides of this. You just have to know which type of investor you are for that.
well,
Um,
hold on. I will say in some of these that I was researching, what's cool about them, the silver ones in particular, if you say have over 100 shares of the company, they'll give you like wholesale at cost physical delivery.
mhm.
So that's something to consider as well. That way you get the paper exposure. But see, the reason why I like, first of all, I really liked silver back in the day in particular because you could get it at $14 an ounce.
Yes, yes, and it's a physical thing. It's a commodity, right? So this is one
Right.
of those things where, in worst case scenario, if we enter a time when we actually have to use the bartering system again, what are we going to use? Well, gold and precious metals have been the monetary standard since the dawn of time. So I could foresee a situation, and again, not trying to be alarmist, where you're having to make deals in actual things that have value, especially if we see hyperinflation, right? We saw that in, for example, Zimbabwe, I believe it was, where we had billion% inflation. It was like 4 billion% or something ridiculous like that. Well, what are they going to do? They either trade in crypto, and they use the US dollar, or you use gold. If you see the same thing happen in the US dollar, again, you're going to see history repeat itself there.
Well,
That
the with the physical thing too. I mean, Danny doesn't own any physical, but like, look, I tell almost everyone like I'm never gonna tell anybody what to do, but like I don't care who you are, you should probably own like I don't know some physical silver, like I don't know, like maybe 20 ounces, let's say, just in case something like that does happen.
I have some silver coins. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, just some silver eagles or whatever, just like, I don't know, 20 ounces worth of physical silver that you can barter in case the
Yep.
power goes out or whatever, or you need to say hightail it to Mexico. You can grab your bag of gold
Yep.
and silver and just take off.
So I have this highlighted. This is a type of asset called a CFD. That's called a contract for difference, and it's a type of derivative contract that mimics the price of whatever the asset is, right? So this is essentially going to track directly the price of gold. So this isn't something that you get into as an investment, as you see. Unfortunately, obviously, I watch gold quite a bit, so the lines are pretty dense on the day charts. But if you go to this one and you go back to gold, we see that it's essentially exactly the same thing. And the reason why they do that is so that you could trade them on what we call spot markets. It's as close as you're going to get to the physical thing as possible without doing, sorry, it's as close as you can get to a derivative as possible without having to go through all the margin requirements of like an options contract or a futures contract. The spread, the tick value is also not as bad. So if I buy a couple contracts of this and it goes down a bit, I'm not going to blow up my account. You could typically go the way they trade typically Forex is via the same mechanism. So a lot of venues for that, like Oanda and so forth, will let you trade gold as well. These CFDs as well. There's even CFDs on stock. So this is just a basically a mirror image of what we should see here with gold. the futures contract rather. Moving on to BTG, we see great little spike here. Another gold. Again, we're kind of grouping these by subject matter. What I like about this is that we're seeing a nice little breakout after. Let's go ahead and do the Elliott wave here. We see looks like we've already started our
Mhm.
second. We're already going into that second leg here. As we've seen with the others, it's just this is a much more pronounced breakout. I certainly think that there's room that this could retrace. Um, but again, we're talking like what we call local, right? Where I don't mean it's going to retrace the whole thing. I mean that, okay, we're going to have this zigzaggy pattern like I'm drawing here. Those are the waves, as we call them in Elliott waves. So I certainly think a retracement to 473 or even 427 is reasonable. Then again, I keep forgetting. I just go into my little rant, and sometimes I just don't even look at the price, and I'm seeing it's less than $10. Fuck it.
Yeah, right, right. Yeah. One speculative position for some
Yeah,
exposures is not going to
that's
kill you.
not good. That's certainly not going to be the end of the world if it retraces a tiny bit on you. And believe it or not, this does pay dividend. 1.57 is not the craziest we've seen on this show, but it's certainly not shabby. So I think that this is a really great way for especially young investors. If you're just coming onto the scene, just tuning into the show, you want to get involved in some commodities. I mean, this is a perfect opportunity right here. All
Even though,
right.
man, it sucks. It sucks that they can't get in on, but like get in on silver that was $14 an ounce at one point, man. I still like the recent highs, it going off to past $100 wasn't that long ago, but even still, it's like, geez, can you believe that? Just think about it. It was 2020. It was at like around $14 an ounce, Danny.
Well, also don't forget gold was $1,300 for like years, right? And it's like almost quadruple that. Actually, it's probably going to quadruple. It's very close, but
Right.
yeah. So there are certain things that they just kind of give you that opportunity, you know. And
Yep.
I think that that's kind of what we're seeing here with a lot of our Canadian refiners, like we've been talking about with CNQ, CVE, is that they're giving us that opportunity. So might
Right.
as well take advantage of it.
And just like with silver, I was very early,
Hmm.
very, very early, but I'm glad I was,
Yep.
And
Yeah,
that's why
exactly.
I'm glad that's why I got physical too, because it kept me from just liquidating, you know what I mean? Like
Sure.
it's something you hold on to.
Yep.
So,
Yep. Awesome. Well, that's about it for today. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one.
bye bye.
Bye bye.